Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.
Yes, the haymaker. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, my good man. I can hear you. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. How are you? Chilling in the hotel?
Chilling in the hotel. I've been downstairs since I was let out of my room. I went downstairs. We're next door to the SSE arena in Wembley, and I've been doing media all day long. I stopped a couple of times to eat some food, but I've literally just got back to my room since I've been let out. I think it's about 11, 12 o'clock today I was let out. So the full day of graft. Good full day of promotion.
So have you been in like a bit of a bubble lockdown? Did you have to quarantine for so many hours in your hotel room when you got there?
Yeah. Yesterday I got here, I think it was 11 o'clock. About 11 o'clock, and they had to do a COVID test, and then we had to stay inside our room until the results of that came in. And it normally takes roughly around 24 hours. Mine was like 22 hours or so. But Derek, the donut, decided to do his own COVID test. So there's a woman, a nurse, a doctor, or whatever she was, a practitioner of some description. She was supposed to do the test with a swab up the nose, but he decided, no, I'll do that, put it up his nose. But because he wasn't a doctor or a nurse, technically the result it doesn't count. So he then posted that, and someone saw it and said, oh, he's supposed to be doing his own test. So then he had to do another test, which means he had to stay in his hotel room for another like 4 or 5 hours.
Oh, what a nightmare! So the person that was doing the test, why did they let him take his own sample? It begs the question. You know what I mean?
Well, if you was doing the sample and Derek Chisora said no, give it here, I'm doing it. You know, what are you going to do, really?
Well, that's a bad example asking me, innit? Because I fear no man. I know what you're saying.
I'm sure you'd have just said, okay, Derek, do it yourself.
So anyway, we're gonna have a talk about the fight, Usyk Chisora. We have to talk about it. We have to mention Usyk's names first. He's the bill. You know, he's the guy that everyone's expecting to win. And I'd just like to correct you from yesterday, because you said that I said that Derek Chisora has
Slim and none, and Slim's just left town. Are you going to try and retract
that
statement?
Listen, I'm not even retract. There's nothing to retract. There's nothing to even retract, because the statement was never made. It was a long.
So do you think that Derek actually does have a chance? Are you changing your mind now?
Listen, you'd have to be stupid to think that somebody who punches like Derek Chisora, we've seen him time and time again. I mean, the Carlos Takam knockout, just for one example.
That was a hell of a fight.
And he was under pressure as well for many moments in that fight.
He was taking some serious stick in that
taking
fight.
More punishment than what I took in a few of my fights, sitting on the ropes in the corner, taking heavy shots. I never used to. People said that I took a lot of shots, but I didn't sit there like Chisora. He was riding them. He was soaking them up.
You look like Pernell Whitaker compared to what he looked in.
No, I won't go that far. But yeah, I know what you're saying. But yeah, and he turned it around and he got the knockout, and we've seen it. We've seen it with him.
One overhand right, and that was when he was completely exhausted from getting battered. How about when he's in tip-top condition? How about when he's conditioned his body, conditioned his mind to focus on throwing specific sequences of punches that Usyk doesn't like?
Right, listen. So you're telling me that the training's gone superb, which obviously you're not going to say it's not, but you could be honest and say that
the last three training camps I've done with Chisora was the Dylan White 2 rematch. I was very unhappy with it, but because the first fight went as well as it did do, I actually had Derek possibly. It was a very close fight. I had Derek taking it by a round. He had, but he lost that fight. So off the strength of him losing that fight and such a close fight, I thought, going by what his existing training team was telling me about his fitness going into the second fight, that's what gave me the confidence that he would win. And he was winning up until the point he got knocked out in the 11th round. So I was unhappy with a lot of the way he did his training, his mindset, the fact he took way too many days off, the fact that he wasn't really pushing himself to the limit in every training session. He was cutting his sparring short. He wasn't really sparring the right people, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Since that point, he's taken on board a lot more of what I've requested, taking on board the training philosophies of, pushing his heart rate a lot higher than he has done in the past, not being a plodding heavyweight, training like you're a middleweight, throwing clusters of punches, not one or two big shots. We're talking clusters of no less than 4.
He's known for being quite fit. He's fit for 12 rounds anyway. We've seen that time and time again.
No. Here's the thing that maybe the experts aren't aware of. Derek, you're right. You've seen him time and time again do 12 rounders. Does that mean you're 12 round fit to fight for 3 minutes of those 12 rounds? Just because someone does, you could
no. Of course not.
You
of
could
course
do
not.
a 12 round fight today if you pace yourself correctly. You've got enough boxing know-how to get through 12 rounds and lose on points against probably anyone in the world right now.
Yeah.
But for you to be the type of fitness that you need to win these toe-to-toe exchanges, you know what it takes, how hard you've got to push yourself. And there have been times in the past where you haven't quite. You've been fit for the first fight with George Groves. You was fit for 12 rounds. No, you wasn't. You didn't. You wasn't. You could do 12 rounds, but you didn't have that engine to keep.
I was fit for the dancing I was doing on that dance show. I was quite good at the rumba and the cha-cha-cha, and that distracted me from my training for quite a bit. But I've seen Chisora. I've seen him go 12 rounds. I've seen him finish strong in fights.
How about him now being...
The first fight with Dillian White was close, and that was a tough 12-rounder.
And if you thought he had 12 rounds of action in then, how about when he's done 3 times as much sparring, got hit a tenth of the amount in his head through training camp, he's done 3 times as many conditioning sessions, and he's really, really pushing his lungs in every session where he didn't do before. You saw Derek Chisora fighting on an empty tank, and that's still impressive. How about when he's fully loaded? It makes
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he can do now. Is you're saying he's like super fit, fitter than he's ever been, the best he's ever been. But with respect, David, you could sell snow to the Eskimos. Let's be honest.
I've been told today I could sell a doormat to a homeless man, is what I was told today.
Right, okay. So, and I'm not going to discredit that in any way, because you know your stuff, you know what you're seeing, and you've got inside. Right, tell me about Alexis Dimitriadis, if that's pronounced correctly.
Yeah,
you used him. Let me just stop you. Did you have him in your training? Just for the people that didn't know, he trained you for your fight against Chisora.
Yes, he was.
And you was working on some different. You was working on some different bits. Exactly. Tell me about that.
When I was training to fight Derek Chisora in 2012. I was fully aware that Derek is stronger than me. Fact, he can deadlift more than me, he can squat more than me, he can bench press more than me. He's just a bigger, stronger animal than me. So I didn't want that to be the case. I remember watching the way Evander Holyfield dealt with Mike Tyson. And what he did was, anytime they got into a clinch, for whatever reason, Holyfield was able to walk Tyson back, put him on his heels and walk him back to the ropes. Psychologically, that got into Mike Tyson's head and allowed him to believe Holyfield was stronger than him. And he was the guy coming up from cruiserweight. So theoretically, Tyson was probably expecting Holyfield to try and box around him, but he didn't. He took it to him. So I thought, how can I do that? Alexis and all of the guys, Marius, his brother, and all the guys down at London Shoot Fighters, they come from a wrestling background, an MMA background. So there's a lot of clinch work, a lot of pummeling involved. So I got these guys involved to assist me in learning how the foot positioning, how to, get your underhooks in and use it to your advantage, punching whilst in the clinch. There's so many different elements that I was unaware of that they made me aware of. And it allowed me to seriously take control of the fight with Derek Chisora, who was stronger than me. And if you rewatch that fight, anytime he came into a clinch, I pushed him back. Psychologically, it made Derek believe that I was stronger than I actually was, which then allowed me to have that gap and have that room to land my longer range punches. So
yeah, I get that.
I brought him in for that. It was very good, useful. He's also assisted me over the years with my sparring. I used to send him videos of my sparring if he wasn't there. And he used to, I remember you always coming back with good feedback about footwork, about tactical side of things. These guys they're fighting guys. They don't have they're not come from a boxing background. They come from a fighting combat background. They train.
So physically, okay. So physically, they're going to get Derek Chisora a bit more physically in terms of grappling and up close. But Chisora is already bigger and stronger and heavier than Usyk. So in that department, he's already got them advantages.
No, he was, but he never used to use it. He was unaware. He never used to use his strength in fights. He didn't know how to. What he used to do is allow people to walk him back. And if you watch when he gets into clinches with people, he was getting pushed back. I was able to push him back.
He was pushed him back in your fight, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't know how. He was unaware of how to use that strength. He was strong, but he didn't know how to use it. These guys have allowed him to develop a boxing technique and style to maximize his punching output, to make sure when he punches, his head's coming off the line, that he's not up in the air, getting ready to get caught with the counter-attacks. He has been getting counter-attacks in the past. So these guys, because they don't have a boxing background, you can't really check out their boxing credentials. But I've used their boxing credentials, and this will be the first time Alexis has been in a corner of a boxing match. But he understands boxing, he understands fighters, he understands rhythm and pace and how to structure.
Right. Okay. So I've got all that. I understand it. Alexis, he knows his stuff. He's adding to Chisora's game. He's going to add to it sounds to me like it's going to be a bit of weight distribution, a little bit of grappling up close. He's going to be able to maneuver Usyk around the ring and make him tired rather than use too much of his own energy, sort of position him around the ring himself. So that's going to be an advantage. But Alexander Usyk, he's won everything as an amateur. 100%. He's undisputed king as a cruiserweight. He's now this is his second fight. I mean, Chaz Witherspoon, that win. Does that count as a big win as heavyweight? In many people's eyes, probably not. No, but he's gone up. He's come up to heavyweight. He's dipped his toe in the water with Witherspoon. He's won that fight. And now he's in against somebody who we know is a fully fledged heavyweight who can go in with the best of them. You know, he comes up short. He's had a split decision loss against Dillian White. He's been beat by Vitaly Klitschko. You know, there's been a Pulev. There's been a couple of losses in there where you think. I mean, the Pulev fight was close. It was close, but yeah, that was a bad loss in Monaco. Actually, I was there commentating for that. But Chisora was not interested at all. Kind of a bit of a bad attitude. I actually had a word with Derek Chisora after that fight. He came over and looked at the scorecards. Me, Adam Smith, and Darren Barker was scoring, and my scorecard had Chisora probably winning 1 or 2 rounds. And Derek was like, "Whose scorecard's that there?" And I said, "Yeah, that's Darren Barker's scorecard." But it was actually my scorecard. So I just didn't want the argument. So I did say to him, "Listen, you got beat."
You would have been the person letting him do his own swab. Here you go. That's that.
Yeah, exactly. So I let him think my scorecard was Darren's, just for the sake of any altercations, if you like. But I spoke to Chisora, I spoke to Derek, and I said to him, "Look, mate, you're a big, strong heavyweight. You've got ability. You're going to end up wasting an opportunity. If you don't think you can go in there and beat these top boys, if you don't think you belong in the mix with the likes of Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, you know the big boys in the division, you can at least think to yourself, I've got a shot at these guys. I can challenge these guys and maybe I could do something. The least you're going to do is earn a lot of money and give a lot of boxing fans some great fights." And I think from that conversation I had with him, that quick 5-minute conversation after that fight he lost in Monaco, I do feel like he got a little bit inside his head and thought, you know what, Froch is right here. I listen to Froch. He's a world champ, retired world champ. I'll take that advice. And then obviously he's linked up with you. Now, it interests me how, you gate crashed the Klitschko press conference, post-fight press conference after Chisora's loss to Klitschko. And you punched him in the face, basically. Or was it a left elbow? Whatever it was, you two ended up having a scrap. And I can't understand. A tripod got picked up at some stage as well, a camera tripod. That ended up round Adam Booth's head somehow. Did you mean to put that round Adam Booth's head?
No, it was an accident. That
was an accident, okay. But how do you, what my question is, how do you get from there to then fighting him, probably, what was it, 6 months later? Probably 6 months later, and knocking him out in the fight, to then to then working with him. How does that conversation go? Was it immediately after the fight when the respect, the needle was lost and the respect was there from both of you? Was it then after you fought Chisora that you two started to get along?
No, it wasn't. It didn't work out quite like that. After the fight, it kind of squared things off. I think he felt during that press conference he got sucker punched. Some may say I did. You know, it's what I referred to as a preemptive strike.
Yeah, that's what we learn on the street. But
yes,
he didn't like that shot, did he?
Regardless,
he took it well, though. To be honest,
he did that. I did actually think to myself, if I ever do fight him, he's going to be a handful. He's going to take more than a flicky jab to keep him off.
Yeah,
more than a feint and a flicky jab. Which
definitely hard work on the cobbles. Definitely. But it's not going to come to that. You two now get on. So following on from your fight, you had a good conversation. You're now working together.
But there was a big gap. There was like a 6-year gap between that.
Right, okay.
There was a 6-year gap between our fight and when he hit me up and said, I need to have a meeting with you. I need to speak to you. Spoke to him. He said, I want you to be my manager.
Right, okay. So he came to you and asked you to manage him. So that was him looking for some guidance then in the business side of boxing, but also the training setup, because he kind of always wings it, doesn't he, in the training? He's got no real structure. Now he's got structure, and we've seen it. We've seen his improvements. We've seen him. You know, you look at his last 3 fights. You know, Gashi, Spilka, and David Price.
Yeah.
You know, that's 3 good wins, 3 positives, 2 of them knockouts, and you know, when you're on that kind of momentum and you're on that winning streak, it builds confidence.
Yeah.
We know he's jumping in with Usyk now. We know what, you know, I think it's probably 85% of people that I speak to just think that Usyk's going to outbox him and maybe stop him late. And I can kind of see myself.
I understand that.
I could see myself a late stoppage for Usyk. I'm not saying it's going to be a late stoppage, but I can see that. I can see Usyk just... Yeah. I watched Alexander Usyk yesterday against Joe Joyce on the WSB, which is, for people who don't know, it's kind of a bridge between amateur boxing and professional boxing. It's 5 3-minute rounds, no head guards, no vests. And I've never seen anybody deal with Joe Joyce in that manner, the way Usyk did. Usyk was he wasn't playing with him, that would be disrespectful to Joyce, but Joyce landed very little. He looked to be shook up a couple of times. I never see Joe Joyce, the juggernaut. He just marches forward with his cumbersome-looking shots, but he's really, really effective, and he gets to everyone. I've seen him sparring Anthony Joshua on numerous occasions up at the England squad at the IS in Sheffield. And, you know, I watched that yesterday, and I just thought to myself, he's not a small cruiserweight, and now he's in the heavyweight division.
That was a long time ago as well.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Of course it was.
So he's improved immensely since that point.
Yeah. So anyway, we've discussed what you think. I'm not saying what I think. I know for a fact that Derek Chisora, if he catches anybody on the chin, including Alexander Usyk, he can knock him out.
How about on the top of the head?
How do you mean? If he catches Usyk on the top of the head?
He caught Carlos Takam on the top of the head.
Yeah, well, he hit him and he got up at the count, and then the finish was I think Takam really. I mean, there was an argument that fight could have been stopped, but it had to go on. Yeah. And then he swallowed the right hand. Was that the top of the head, that second right hand?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of top of the head shots. Derek Chisora doesn't have that pinpoint accuracy. He wings shots wide, but those swipes are hard. The body shots are heavy. We've been getting 5 or 6 sparring partners per sparring session, 2 in. Just completely, each person does 2 rounds, and they're getting a 1,000-pound bonus if they can knock him down. So these are live rounds. These guys are really coming at him, and he's got to have to win the rounds. Unlike the old days where he just does 8 rounds of sparring, he's bashed up against the ropes. None of that. He's actually got to move his head, punch and move, and he's doing things consistently for the last 6 months now. For me, that will really make a difference in this fight. I really see Usyk being put in his uncomfort zone. Derek will be hit with shots he doesn't know exist. Usyk is that guy, the southpaw. He can step round you. You can bring the shots up, bring them round. But Derek Chisora doesn't have a traditional style. He does his cross-arm defense, which isn't something you see in the amateurs. So Usyk hasn't had to deal with anybody of that type of style yet. All of the people Usyk have fought have been international amateurs themselves, world champions, amateurs, Brados, the Gassarov, all the Olympic-style fighters moved into the professional game at the same time. And there's not much in it between them. But Derek Chisora just has a very, very different style that's very difficult to read. And all of the sparring partners came into camp believing Derek Chisora was going to get battered. They said, every single one of them said, yeah, when we heard the fight, we're coming in to help, but we thought, Derek probably can't deal with me. Every single one of them, at the end of the spar, pulled him to the side and said, oh, what do you think? They all said, I didn't know Derek could close the range like that. I didn't know he could. I didn't know he's never done it in any fights. If he can replicate what he's been doing in sparring in this fight, and there's no reason he shouldn't, we've got ourselves a very, very interesting fight where Usyk may have to go soul searching. Usyk may not be able to just keep it on the outside and outbox. He may force Usyk to have to go toe-to-toe to start winning the rounds. We saw Papachenko's son, Lomachenko, have to really dig in them late rounds. And it was against a guy who was naturally bigger than himself, Lopez. And we saw the pound-for-pound kingpin not able to deal with the size factor. This, I believe, is a similar type of deal. Obviously, Derek isn't young, but the size factor, he's going to be 20 kilograms bigger than him. That's a lot of weight in boxing. They have weight categories for a reason. 20 kilos of a prime Derek Chisora willing to hit elbows, hips, back of head, neck, he'll hit you in the throat. Anytime Usyk wants to clinch, he's going to be in trouble. So I'm telling you,
without a doubt,
exciting.
Without a doubt, this is the first time that Usyk is going to be in the ring with a proper heavyweight who's got experience. He's got abundance of experience at top level as well. And, I think it'd be stupid to think that Chisora is not going to put Usyk in some kind of pressure or some kind of sticky points or put him in some position where he's not being in amateur or professional. He's going to have his back against the ropes. He's going to be pushed around and manhandled at times. And that's the interesting bit for me. How does Usyk cope under pressure when he's being leaned on and punched around the side of the head and around the back of the ribs and, sort of manhandled and mauled around the ring? Because he's got so much weight and size advantage, Chisora. Well, not so much height, but the weight, the bulkiness of the weight, and that physical strength. Yeah, so, Usyk's going to be definitely in a position he's probably never been in his career. And that's what excites me with this fight. Seeing how Usyk responds to that and seeing how he deals with the pressure of a proper heavyweight fighter like Chisora, who isn't coming here he's not coming here to lose or roll over. He's coming here with ambition and he's coming here with, with his head, one eye on the future and potentially what's ahead for him, because this gives him a ranking, this gives him a mandatory position for Anthony Joshua. Is it the WBO is to be mandatory
WBO, yeah, exactly.
So if he knows he's got that as a dangling carrot for him as well, there's no reason for Derek Chisora to leave anything in the changing rooms or to leave anything in the gym. He just leave every single ounce of what he's got in the ring, and that's what excites me about this fight. Regardless of how you think the result's going to go, this cannot be a one-sided performance or a one-sided whooping from Alexander Usyk. It just wouldn't seem right. It wouldn't be fair to suggest that. But Usyk is that good. You can see why people are dismissing Chisora, but they need to think about the size, the weight, the attitude, the change in training with Chisora, and just take all that into account when they're placing their bets or they're opening their mouth with their opinions. Like I said, I share the opinion of many people who think that Usyk's probably got too much skill and too much natural ability and too much class. But this isn't amateur boxing. This is professional boxing. And it can get very dirty and very hurtful in there at times of amateur boxing. The referees let things go. They let low blows go. They let kidney punches go. They let back of the head slaps go and leaning and elbows in the face. All these things can play a massive factor in this weight division. So I'm excited. I'm not writing off Alexander Usyk by no stretch of the imagination. Not Usyk, not Chisora. I'm not writing off Chisora. He's definitely in for a chance. I've got to say Usyk's my favourite for the win. It has to be, as far as I'm concerned. Opinions are split down. No, not split 50-50. They're split 85-15, I think, in Usyk's favour. But that's kind of irrelevant for Derek Chisora, and that's irrelevant for Team Chisora, which is you, because you've obviously got your beliefs.
Yeah.
So
I saw a betting company today giving 80-1 odds on Derek Chisora to win the fight.
Yeah, to me that's ridiculous. That's crazy.
I'm saying that's how confident the world is that Derek Chisora is going to lose this fight. 80-1. Yeah. It's crazy. If you've seen what I've seen in training, with these sparring partners, fresh sparring partners. For instance, we brought in Gashi, the guy that he wasn't able to stop and went 10 rounds with. Gashi, 2 rounds is all it was taking. 2 rounds. It was, he significantly improved. And with 10-ounce gloves on, we got ourselves a hell of a fight. Derek Chisora said in an interview earlier, he understands he's going to have to eat some leather. He said, you really think I'm going to get through this fight and not eat some leather? He said, every single fight I've ever had, I've had to eat some leather. But I'm willing to eat. I've learned to love the taste of leather. But how is Usyk? How does Usyk like the taste of leather? Hasn't really had to take much in his lifetime. How about when I give him more than he's ever had to deal with?
Yeah, very interesting.
He's ever had. Very interesting. Someone who hasn't had to go to the well. If there was a waterboarding competition, who could be waterboarded the longest? Who can suffer the longest? I keep saying it. Who could drown the longest out of him and Usyk? Derek Chisora has had so many blood and guts fights because he's just not been in condition. He's been fighting with an empty tank his whole career. We've now filled it up. He's got so much more defense, so much more offense. His footwork's better. He's doing all of the things that he was never been able to do. He doesn't need to take a minute and a half on the ropes to regather himself while taking punches like he did against Dillian Whyte, like he did against Carlos Takam. He's finally in a position where he can fight for 3 minutes of a 12-round contest, and it's very, very, very exciting. And I know you're going to be on the edge of your seat from the very first bell. It's an intriguing fight, very, very intriguing fight where the experts have it one way. You're an expert. I'm an expert. I'm sure if I weren't working with Derek Chisora, I'd see it exactly as you see it. I thought, when I thought at one stage, Derek Chisora was completely washed up and finished. I really thought his days was gone. I'm talking a couple, 2-3 years back. I thought it was all done for him. After the Caballo fight in Monaco, I thought, Derek Chisora, he's got nothing. But the fact that he put his pride to one side, and the fact that he came to me and put his career in my hands, I felt very, very responsible to make sure I give him all that he needs to do the very best in his career. You only have one career in life. You and myself have been very, very fortunate that we were switched on. We had a good infrastructure, a good team. Your nutrition was on point. Your heart rate. Am I right or wrong? Do you have notes on your training sessions from years ago? You've probably
I've got like 13 diaries on 13 years of training sessions, all documented.
Derek doesn't have one note of any session he's ever done up until he started working for me. Now we've got.
It's not the same for everyone. Not everybody likes that, but it's definitely a benefit to keep. Yeah, it's worth. Keeping notes, 100%.
Someone professional logs everything, because if something goes great, you need to see why. And if something goes bad, you need to review it. Maybe next time, take out these sessions, add these sessions. If you got done with body shots, let's add in some core. Let's see what core work we were doing. Let's see how many ab sessions we were doing. Let's up that. That's professionalism. Derek Chisora has been constantly adapting with me over the last 2 years, working with different coaches, fine-tuning, from his physiotherapist to his nutritionist to his osteopath. He's had Ruben Tabarez measuring every single potential, from his stretching to his strength. Everything's monitored. Everything's on a progression to this Saturday night.
No, I'm going to kick in. I'm going to kick in because if I don't kick in, are you there? Is your battery gone dead? No, you're still there.
No, man, I'm still here.
If I don't step in, I'm never going to give the fans that are writing in the comments and the people that have wrote in beforehand a chance to play part in this Insta Live. So I need to take over and put a sock in it just for 1 minute, David. Hope you don't mind. With the best respect, I mean, you can talk, and you talk well. Listen, I love listening to you. I can sit here and listen to you for hours. Whether I agree with all of it or not is fascinating. But right, I'm going to start looking through the comments. I've had some people send in some comments. I might need to move a little bit actually because the lighting in here is quite bad.
You look good to me, baby.
We'll just go over here a minute. Let me get some light on here. Right then. Does a prime David Haye beat Usyk?
I think so.
You think so? Well, I mean, you're gonna back yourself anyway, aren't you? Let's be honest. That's from Charlie Merson. Charlie Merson, by the way, asked that one.
Okay, Charlie Merson. I think the only cruiserweight I would feel I would be really, really, really worried about is Evander Holyfield, because Evander Holyfield is made from different stuff. He's the real deal for a reason. That guy.
Well, Evander Holyfield is arguably the best cruiserweight transitioning to a heavyweight of all time because of what he achieved.
I think he's the best cruiserweight of all time. Of all time.
Just the best cruiserweight. You
straight up best cruiserweight of all time. I think he's significantly better than me. I think.
What about Usyk though? Usyk, he's a pretty good cruiserweight. He's definitely up there, Usyk, and you was up there as well. The former undisputed cruiserweight, stepping up to heavyweight. I mean, don't downplay yourself in that sense because
I'm not downplaying myself. I'm saying I've always been a massive fan of it was 30 years a week ago where Evander Holyfield went up to heavyweight and fought Buster Douglas after Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson and knocked him out with one punch. For me, that's the best cruiserweight ever. The one who can go up and beat a big man, not just any big man, a big man who's just beaten Mike Tyson, knocks him out.
And the fights with Riddick Bowe, Riddick Bowe as well.
Riddick Bowe, even the length to his fight. Oh, listen, he's had some absolute wars. The fights with Tyson, Mike Tyson, he's an absolute living legend. And,
I'm going to 100% totally agree with you. Evander Holyfield, he had a bit longer though. He had a longer time to develop into the heavyweights actually, because he kind of vanished for a bit, and then when he came into the heavyweights, he was a bit younger than Usyk. Usyk's 33 now, stepping into heavyweight, and then Evander Holyfield had time to transition and time to put the weight. He went away, didn't he, and bulked up. I don't know what meat he was eating.
When you say he bulked up, it was only like when he fought Riddick Bowe, it was only 205 pounds.
Right, okay.
That much. I was 210 pounds when I fought Derek Chisora. He was 5 pounds lighter than I was when I fought Chisora.
Anyway, I said I'm going to give the fans something back here because they're tuning in, they're sticking with us. Right. Whether you think we're waffling or not, we're talking sense. We know our stuff. The Haymaker and the Cobra here live on Instagram, doing our thing, baby. I'm just going to read some of the comments that have been sent in beforehand, and then we're going to scroll down this page here because people write in thinking, I want to get a little shout out. So let's give some of the fans a bit of a shout out. People that have gone and took the time to write in on the Insta story. First of all, I've got this bit of paper, man. I'm trying to read it because it's very small. Right. Remember when you sold out Wembley? We don't need to know about that.
How many people was there, Carl?
Yeah, we definitely did.
Was it 75,000?
I think Mr. Hayes having a bit of a push and pull. Does a prime? Yeah, we've had that one. Who's the best fighter of all time? And why is his name Carl Froch? Yeah, I like the sound of that. When you beat Macreleni, that's how you pronounce it. Yeah. Enzo Macreleni. I was in Spain when I watched that fight, and it was too quick. It was hard for me to get Sky out in Spain, and I had it tuned in. I was sat there with my jug of sangria, waiting for a nice 8-10 round, and it was gone. The fight was over. Anyway, when you beat Macreleni, he was best of seen since Tyson for finishing a fight early. Okay, so he's giving you a bit of credit there, saying that you was the best finisher. And to be fair, you was a good finisher. Like myself, you see your man hurt, you taste the blood, whatever you say, you got the instinct to get them out of there because you know anything can happen in the next round. You could get cut, you could get injured, and you don't need that. The Cobra takes Chisora's best shots and KOs him with the pinky finger. Yeah, I doubt that. I'm gonna have to proofread these before I read them out first. Why is David Haye such a big-headed? There's no need for that, is there? There's just no need for that. I'm not gonna give the shout-outs to any names that start abusing the fans, abusing the fighters.
Don't give the haters the oxygen.
So, do you feel that this is the right time for Derek Chisora to fight Usyk at heavyweight? Because I think what he means by that, and this is Scott.
I think it's the perfect Scott. What I wouldn't want is for Usyk to fight someone like a Carlos Takam, someone who's like a bridge between Chad Witherspoon and Derek Chisora. I wouldn't want him to realise, bloody hell, I can't believe how much weight he put on me. Good thing I want him to figure it out in round 6 or 7 that he's got it all wrong. That the sparring partners he brought in weren't the right sparring partners. The amount of punishment he put himself in sparring wasn't adequate to be conditioned for the fight he's going to find himself in. I think this is the perfect time. There's been a perfect storm stars, moon, all aligning on the right night, on Saturday night. I'm watching Usyk downstairs walking around. He's got an air of confidence like I've never seen. You know what I see? I see the confidence that I used to have when I was the undisputed champ, when I was walking around thinking I'm number one, the Ring Magazine belt, lineal champ, all that crap.
Listen, you're very excited and you're full of energy, which I can feel, and it excites me. I'm looking forward to Saturday for this fight. I really am.
Usyk is downstairs walking around, and I can feel his confidence, and he just doesn't know what's coming. He doesn't know what it's like to be in a heavyweight. Chad Smith
says that Usyk is too skillful, but if Derek Chisora catches Usyk, it could be lights out. Do you think that Usyk's lights could be switched off? Do you think he could be knocked out by a heavyweight blow from Chisora? Or do you think he'll take the shot?
I think he'll take the shot. I think he's young, he's fresh. He hasn't got that many miles on the clock. He's a very, very experienced guy. He's been hit with big shots. Gastayev is a massive puncher. He caught him flush multiple times. So for me, Derek Chisora is going to need to hit him with multiple shots. One shot might stun him, might buckle his legs a bit. But Derek's going to then need to start working the body, working the back of the head, working the kidneys, roughing him up inside. Get used to
King's Amber is saying it's a mistake that Usyk's turned heavyweight. He's gone up to heavyweight. He's saying it's a mistake. It could be the end of him. He might not be ready for this heavyweight division. He's a top cruiserweight. He's done everything as an amateur, but
the reason why only two men in the history of the boxing have ever won cruiserweight titles and heavyweight titles, myself and Holyfield. We both had something that I'm unsure that Usyk has, and that's one punch concussive knockout power. He hasn't shown me it yet. He may have it. He may have saved it for his heavyweight campaign. But at cruiserweight, his world title fights, rarely did he clean people out in one shot. If you look at my fights with Mormek, took him out. Macronelli took him out. That's how I did my unification fights. That's all my world title fights went. Usyk as a skill stay, he's a slickster, he uses angles, uses speed, works beautiful.
Going back to you, STE Broadly has asked, who's the best you have faced and who's the hardest hitter? So that question's to both of us. Who's the best you've faced as a fighter? Do you think, in your opinion, who's the best you've faced? And who's hit you the hardest or the hardest hitter?
The hardest hit I've taken was from a guy called Lalenga Mock. And I think it was in one of my early fights.
You was a light heavyweight then?
But yeah, 7 fight. I was a cruiserweight. I was only 13 stone 7 or 13 stone 8. I was very small. And this little guy from the Congo.
So you was cruiser in that fight against Lalenga Mock? I thought you did you know what? You was light heavyweight amateur. Then you stepped up before, after the World Championships, and then you stepped in.
The cruiserweight limit used to be 13 stone 7. And this fight was at 13 stone 7. It went up 10 pounds to 14 stone 4. Right before my fight against Carl Thompson. But when I fought this guy, Lengo, he was a light heavyweight. He actually fought a super middleweight a few times. So he was a really small guy. But he hit me with a double impact.
Yeah, I waited for him to move up.
Yeah, he was a proper hand. I remember saying, you remember mentioning to you about fighting him? I'm like, not about, it reminded me of Charles. It's like a giant Charles Adamu.
Yeah.
No one needs that in their life. They really don't need that.
Adonis Stevenson was at super middleweight. Then he stepped up to light heavyweight, and that wasn't bad news for me, him stepping up to light heavyweight, because he could bang a bit. Which was Tony Bellew who found out that he could bang as well, because he came unstuck. I mean, it was a weight drain Bellew, but still he was on the end of some vicious shots. So I've gone through a few on these papers I've printed out. The reason I'm struggling to read these is because he's printed them out so small, and I think with my age now, my eyes are going a little bit. I've got to hold the paper like
you don't need glasses yet, do you?
5 miles away.
I thought you had eyes like a hawk.
So let's have a look. I do have Hawkeye when I'm playing tennis because I need them with my older brother. The Renovator joined us, by the way.
We got to get you in with Cassius. We got to get you a match with Cassius.
No. That's a mismatch. By my own admission, I've got no chance. I've seen him play. I've seen your son play tennis. I play with an 11-year-old, David Lloyd. And when you go and you think, I can beat this kid, and then you realise after about 4 serves that you've got no chance. I can play tennis, right, at a club level, but when you're playing these professional children that play full time as kids, it's different. It's a different game. It's not even the same sport.
He does 4 hours a day, 4 or 5 hours a day. He goes to the tennis academy. So
so there you go. It won't be long before Rocco's beating me at goal.
You any good at table tennis?
We play table tennis all the time. Me and my older brother in my man shed. So it's very similar to. I know it's table tennis.
He's good at table tennis as well.
I can imagine he is because it's very similar. I play tennis and table tennis quite a lot. Me and my older brother have riots in the man cave at the back of my garden. Right, I'm going to look down some of these comments now on the list of going before we wrap up. We've discussed Usyk, Chisora. We didn't talk about the rest of the card because we're only focusing on the main event. I think we can summarise.
Sky Sports box office.
That's right, live on Sky Sports box office this Saturday. You can catch me on.
What else is there to do? What else is there to do on Saturday night? You're not allowed to go to your friend's house. It's illegal. You're not allowed to go trick or treating. You can't go to the cinema. You can't go to a pub. You can't go to a bar. It leaves the options are slim. But don't worry about it. We got you a good night of entertainment, culminating in Derek Chisora's Mission Impossible against the Wiz, the pound for pound.
Listen, if you love boxing, you've got to watch this. If you're not a big boxing fan, this is still a fight for everybody else because this is a tasty dust up because Usyk is one of the best fighters to ever lace a glove up, and Chisora is a more than capable heavyweight against someone who's just stepping up to the heavyweight division, and this could be an upset because if Usyk gets beat, it's a massive upset. But I'll be over the moon because our Dale boy, Derek Chisora, is one of us. You know, he's got a big following now in Britain. People are behind him, and people are writing him off. And when I say any kind of honest negativity towards Derek, it's not negativity in terms of being negative. I'm just being honest. I think Usyk's probably going to be too good for him. You know, that's if I was going to be pushed off a cliff and I had to guess right, I would say, yeah, Usyk beats him somehow, probably points, maybe late stoppage, but Usyk probably wins. But deep down, you'd be thinking, if Chisora lands one of them shots at any time in that 12-round fight, you know this fight could go either way. You really do. But the smart money, I'm saying, is on Alexander Usyk. I think it has to be. Totally see your argument. So we've ripped the arse out of that fight. We've discussed the ins and outs, the trainers, the tactics. You didn't let me speak for about 10 minutes. But I've read a couple of the pre-quotes, the questions that have been sent in. But I'm now going to go down the list. I'm going to scroll down. So anybody watching now that's still with us, there's a few there still out there. Let's have a look.
Strange. Dave Allen's got a fight who's on the undercard against a guy called Lovejoy, who's 20-0, which is interesting. 6'7". The guy,
19 fights, 19 wins by way of the big knockout, the big KO.
It's an impressive record. No names stand out to me that I recognise. But
listen.
About Wilder. Look at Wilder's early career, similar opposition, but he turned out to be a hell of a fighter.
I think the opposition on Lovejoy's record is exceptionally poor. Let's be totally honest about that. But Dave Allen's still got to do a job against somebody who's not been beaten. So it's certainly one I'm going to be watching with interest.
It's another interesting one, another heavyweight dust up where one shot. Look what happened with Dylan White the other night. Just because you're winning on points or you're up, you've got someone down. The heavyweight division, anything can happen. That's why I believe it's the most exciting division on the planet because rarely do you get someone getting battered, and then just pull away one shot. Look at Derek Chisora against Takam. Look at Alexander Povetkin and Dylan White. One shot is all it took, and it changed the whole outcome of the fight. People are getting excited about this heavyweight extravaganza. So I'm reaching at the moment with anticipation.
You're still going.
For the first bell.
You're still going. You're still going. If there was an off button, I would have pressed it by now. Just to silence for a minute. I promised the fans we're going to go through some of these comments. Right, I'm going to start reading the comments now. I'm only going to read the sensible ones. Carl, come back and smash Groves up. Right, that's already been done. We don't need to be doing that, Graham. How would you have beaten Calzaghe, Carl? Right, how would I have beaten Calzaghe? I think I would have had to knock him out if that fight would have gone the distance with Joe Calzaghe. I've got no bones about saying I would have probably lost on points. Calzaghe, fast hands, high work rate, super fit. But I thought Robin Reed did him. I've seen him hit the deck a few times off two old men as well. And I just think that I'd have had too much for him. I think I'd have caught him, but I wouldn't have been surprised if I'd have lost on points at the time. When he vacated his belt and I fought Pascal for the world title, I fought an absolute monster in Jean Pascal. Look what he went on to achieve. He beat Chad Dawson at light heavyweight. And, he beat the man who beat the man. He's just great. I think he's still going now, Pascal. I think he's world champion. So You're asking me if I could beat Calzaghe. Of course, I think I could beat Calzaghe. Where does Derek go after winning this fight? So I think we've said that, you know, he's going to be mandatory for the WBO. So maybe he gets a shot at Anthony Joshua, depending on what happens with AJ and Fury. What round would Derek win? Someone wants to lump a bet on what round? What round would you think Derek would win? If you had to guess a round for Derek to win, would you say it's got to be early, or would you say it's got to be late?
I'd say round 8. I'd say round 8, Usyk gets stopped. Either his corner throws in the towel, referee stops it, or yeah.
So you think a stoppage can be forced by Chisora?
Yeah.
You can for that. Not just a knockout. You don't think that Chisora can knock him out at any point in any round?
I think he can do, but if you ask me if I had to put a bet down on it.
All right, okay. Wilder versus Big Baby Miller. We're going to go off the cuff a little bit here now. We're going to just rattle a few out. Wilder against, is Big Baby Miller even like relevant after his disgraced drug test?
How many times have he been popped?
Yeah, we can't. Would David come back and fight the winner of AJ Fury? That's one fight I'd love to see. I'd just love to see what would have happened. You against Tyson Fury when it nearly happened, when your body kept breaking and falling apart. I don't know how many times I got excited about you at the prospect of fighting Fury. I think Fury is very tall and very rangy, and he's quick on his feet. He's got fast hands, but I don't know. You find a way to land shots.
He definitely wasn't the man he is now back in 2013 when that fight was scheduled. He definitely is significantly better now than he was. Yeah. Back then he was having life and death fights with Steve Cunningham, who's a light punching cruiserweight. So
it's all about timing. It's all about timing. And at that time when you was when you was firing on all cylinders.
If you look at how Mayweather beat Canelo when Canelo was 23, a similar age of what Tyson Fury was. But would that happen 5-6 years down the line? Timing is everything in this game, and that for me, I think would have been the perfect timing. There's ever a time to get.
Yeah, fair enough. How?
It'd have been then.
Fair enough. I know what you're saying. How did Derek Chisora do in sparring against Tony Bellew? That's a measuring stick for this fight. It's a good question from DJC.
I think it was pretty even. I wasn't there when they were sparring, but I've heard it was a pretty even spar.
Yeah, but sparring's hard to gauge. You've got a heavyweight in there against a cruiserweight, light heavyweight cruiserweight. And but it was quite an even spar, was it?
Derek never used to spar hard. Yeah, apparently so. Derek never used to spar hard. He was kind of he didn't take it that seriously. He wasn't really pushing the envelope every round. But we've changed that now. As I said, we put in 5-6 sparring partners per session, and telling them, I'm going to give you £1,000 if you can knock Derek down to try and knock him out. And Derek knows this. Yeah. He doesn't want that. And that money was coming out of his purse as well. So he doesn't want to give him £1,000 and embarrass himself. So that's what happened.
All right. Someone's asking if you had 100 quid in the bank now. If you had 100 quid in. If you haven't, I'll lend it you. How much of that would you put on Chisora to win this fight? I think what that means is on a percentage, you'd say 100. So you're saying 100% Chisora. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah. That's what. If I had a bet, I'd put the money in. For the odds that I'd get, think about it. I'm an odds man. I'm looking at 80 to 1, 80 to 1 for Derek to win.
Yeah, but if you put all of your last 100 quid on, you're going to go skin. So you're basically saying you're 100% confident. Go on.
Or I got up significantly, or I got fucking $8,000.
Yeah. Dare to be great, dare to win. Who do you think wins? So we've got the renovator on the case. Lee, the renovator Froch. He's tuned in. And somebody has asked.
Is he the European unlicensed champion?
It's the EBF, European and world champion. He came in the sport after being sober for 5 years, and he cleaned up. He's got all the belts, but he's got the Froch blood. He's got the genes. He's got.
Listen, just being in and around you is sort of rubbed off. You could some of the greatness is rubbed off on him, and somebody,
I'll take some credit. I'll take some credit for that. Somebody's asking, who do you think wins? Who do you think wins, Lee Froch or Piers Morgan? Because they've been having a bit of beef back and forth. I think Piers Morgan blocked me. Actually, I called Piers Morgan a few, not unsavoury things, but he said a few things.
What was his beef? What was the beef that you had?
It's, to be honest, it's not worth going into. It's Piers Morgan.
What was the topic, at least? You can tell what the topic was.
I think the topic was COVID-19.
Okay.
And what was I don't know. It's just very negative, and it's just all scary. Everything he says is negative. Always, I just told him to cheer up and just tell people to just be a bit healthier, build up the immune system, and go to the gym, and eat some quality fruit and veg.
I got a message here from Leo.
Yeah, go on.
Leo Heath Whitaker said, "What weight were Derek's sparring partners?" And they were between cruiserweights and heavyweights. We had multiple cruiserweights and heavyweights. So probably between 14 stone 4 and 17, 18 stone. So he had different guys, quicker guys, faster guys, lots all southpaws. He had some international amateurs. So it was nice. It was good to see him working with an array of different fighters with different styles. Most of them were southpaws, and he became very comfortable in the uncomfort zone of a southpaw coming at him, throwing quick, sharp, crisp punches, and he adapted, and he's definitely comfortable fighting guys in the southpaw stance, which he never used to be.
Jordan Hodgson has just asked if you and I have ever sparred, and how did it go? Now, I don't know if you've got any accounts of me and you sparring, but my only recollection of me and you sparring is you trying to throw an uppercut on what you used to call the beak, which was my old nose. And you used to land it on quite a regular basis. You was too tall, you was too rangy, and you was too fast for me. Even though you was heavier than me, you was too quick. And I don't even think I had my moments in sparring. I did try and get on you, and I think I tried to bite you at some stage. But no, it was one-sided. When David Haye was, and I'm not stroking his ego here, I'm not just giving him a jail, but when Haye was a light heavyweight amateur, the sparring I used to watch, I was mesmerised. I was very, very impressed. When I first went down to the Crystal Palace back in 1999 or year 2000, probably 1999, after winning the ABAs at middleweight, I first met David Haye and thought, who's this guy here doing this low arms and the Nassim Hamid type style and this reflex? Because I was into all that. I love Nassim Hamid. And you was 18 years old, and I think I must have been 22. How old are you now? I'm 43. You're 40 now, aren't you?
I'm 40, yeah.
So you're 3 years. So I must have been 21, 22 years old. And I couldn't believe you was 18 because you got this goatee beard and the braids in. And you was just destroying everyone. And when we became mates straight away, didn't we? It was our styles made us both intrigued about each other. And then we just got on from day one. So we've been friends. But that didn't matter when Ian Irwin used to chuck me and you in sparring because you used to beat me up, to be honest. I don't even know why I'm your friend, actually. So yeah, to answer your question, the sparring wasn't pretty for me when I sparred David Haye. He was too big and too strong and too rangy. Prime Haye versus a prime Bellew. Do we even want to go there? No, I don't want to go there.
Because a prime me was a cruiserweight, and the prime Bellew was probably a light heavyweight. I mean, his prime years, he was naturally a lot smaller than me. And all you could
that's a good answer.
My prime years was maybe between my cruiser campaign, and I had 4 fights. I had Mormek, Macronelli, both world title fights. I had Monty Barrett, which was a top 10 heavyweight. Then I had Nikolai Valuev. So in 4 fights, I fought an array of people, and I was in those fights I was in my peak and my prime. So I definitely think that was my prime. And that my prime was between 14 stone 4 and probably 16 stone. So my prime was a lot bigger than the fact that Tony Bellew was able to come up in weight above his natural weight of probably cruiserweight and give me as many problems as they did, even though I wasn't in my prime, shows that I think he's got a type of style it always have given people issues. Because he's smart, particularly when he started working with Dave Caldwell. He could formulate a plan to give anyone a hard night's work.
Yeah, fair enough. Love you, David. Best boxer ever.
Look what Bellew.
Please shout out M. Salmon. Yeah, go on. Say that again.
I say, look what Bellew did to Usyk. Bellew was way past his prime when he fought Usyk. Training camp injuries consistently, and even right at the end of his career, he was still up on the cards, after 5 or 6 rounds of Usyk, who was considered by lots of people as one of the best cruiserweights ever. So that showed his pedigree then, that even in his twilight years, he was able to win rounds against the best guy in the world at that time at cruiserweight, who was in their prime and who wasn't in his. So I think people need to factor all of that into when they say who wins what.
Yeah, I know people are going to look at the result of the Usyk fight against Bellew and just say none of that mattered. But you're right,
Yeah.
he was in the fight, very much in the fight early on. He was outboxing him at times, and a lot of people was very surprised. Someone just put Tony Bellew did do very well against Usyk early on, and he did. He was doing very well. Who wins, Joe Gallagher or Eddie Hearn?
I mean,
Yeah, I could.
I wouldn't mind seeing that. That'd be quite fun. Depends what events they'll be doing.
Someone just called me a hot biscuit, and I don't know what that means, but there's a love heart emoji there, so it must be a good thing.
Take it as a good thing.
You ever been called a hot biscuit?
No.
If you could relive one moment stopping Jermaine Taylor or blitzing Lucian Butte, oh, that's a good question.
It's a great question.
Stopping Jermaine Taylor in the last round, the dying seconds of the last round of my first world title defence out in Connecticut.
Taylor is definitely Taylor for sure. That for me.
Yeah, but what about Butte? What about I lost to Andre Ward, then I fought Butte in my first fight back on English soil and won the IBF title. So what's better? They're equally as good and equally as memorable, actually.
I like the Taylor one. The Taylor one showed something that many people can't do. The come back from behind victory.
Yeah, I suppose the Lucian Butte was too one-sided, wasn't it?
Didn't you get decked by Taylor?
Round 3 for the first time in my career. The only time I'd been decked before that was you in sparring, but you legged me up. Because I was running and you tripped me up. Do you remember that? I was backing up running.
I went southpaw and did it.
So yeah, the Jermaine Taylor one, you're right. David Hayes answered that for you on my behalf. Definitely Jermaine Taylor, I think. Thoughts on the
Jermaine Taylor beat Hopkins twice. Ain't no joke. That shows.
Yeah, Jermaine Taylor was undisputed middleweight champion before. He just beat Jeff Lacey before he stepped up to super middle, beat Jeff Lacey. Then he took on the Cobra. Yeah. Carl, your was with Kessler. Brooke versus Crawford. What do you think, Cal Brooke, Terence Crawford?
I think every fighter has an opportunity for greatness. This is Kel's one. When he's past his prime. When Evander Holyfield beat Mike Tyson, no one gave Holyfield a shot in hell.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So many people write people off from time to time. And I remember Shane Mosley and Margarita. Everyone said Margarita was going to bash him up. No, Sugar Shane Mosley rose to the occasion. Every so often, a fighter of old who's past his prime on paper rewinds the clock and does the unthinkable. I'm just hoping Kell Brook has got it all together and is going to go out there and give it one last hurrah and bring it home, because not many people are giving him a shot in hell.
It'd be nice to see Kell Brook win that fight. I had a brief chat with him the other day, just over message, because he'd heard something that I'd said about him. It wasn't really nice, really, but I kind of said he's cashing out fighting Crawford, going out there at the end of his career. He's cashing out, which would indicate
you can't cash out during the COVID lockdown. The money's not there to cash out.
Yeah, true. But he's going out there and it's a big fight on. Is it on ESPN or Top Rank? Yeah. I think it's promoted by Top Rank. But just the situation with Eddie Hearn and how that's unfolded. It's pointless even commenting on that because it's none of my business, and I don't actually know what's gone off. Yeah. But I do wish Kell Brook all the very best in that fight against Crawford. Of course, we're behind him.
Everybody does. The whole of Britain are behind him. He's been a great ambassador. The fact he jumped up there at middleweight and really gave Triple G an absolute tough night's work. People forget, although he may have lost the fight, he had a ruptured eye socket and he was still giving it. He still went when he's out. That for me was all I needed to know about Kell Brook. The fact he went up 2 weight divisions and really had a good go. He landed some big shots on Triple G and he wasn't scared. I was like, ever since then, I was like, I'll give this guy the benefit of the doubt 100% every time.
Yeah, I second that as well. I'm just, what do you reckon? How long have we been on? It feels like an hour, and we've still got
It's bang on. I think we've given the fans enough. Too much of anything. We can't do. You can't overexpose ourselves here.
Yeah, we can't keep going.
A solid hour is fair.
What time is it out there? What time is it? Hopkins. There's a couple of interesting ones there. Hopkins versus Ward. Who wins? Hopkins versus Ward. Bernard Hopkins versus Andre Ward.
That's the rest of the tough one. I'm not sure if it would be the most entertaining fight.
No, because Hopkins knows how to spoil, and we know that Ward is just a spoiler, so it's a tough one. What about a prime? What about Mike Tyson against Tyson Fury? I mean, someone's asked that. Tyson Fury so tall and rangy, and Mike Tyson's just I've watched quite a lot of Mike Tyson lately on some of the because of the promotion for Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. And some of the stuff I've seen on Mike Tyson, some of the stuff you forget about.
How do you see Tyson, Roy Jones Jr.? How do you see that one
going? To be honest, it's so difficult because Tyson's still Tyson. I know he's probably got 2 rounds in him. But Roy Jones is so skillful and quick, but the reflexes go when you get older, and he's not going to have that. We've seen it when he was against Calzaghe. He was like 50% of his prime. So would you say he was 50% when he fought Calzaghe? I'm not just digging Calzaghe out here, but a prime Roy Jones Jr. He never used to lose 1 second of any round, let alone lose a round. He just used to be phenomenal. I used to watch him, and I know you did as well. Watch him with disbelief. It was mesmerising, Roy Jones Jr.
He was the oracle.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument that it was one of the most skillful and fast,
athletically gifted, like
of all time.
Yeah,
but he killed it at the end of his career. Unfortunately, it went on for too long, and people have tainted it. And I don't think the Calzaghe win does a great deal for Calzaghe because the Hopkins win for Calzaghe was good because Hopkins went on and did a few things after that, but. The Roy Jones was gone. I don't know what to say about Tyson Roy Jones now. I just think that it's not going to be pretty.
How many explosive bursts per round do you think a 55-year-old Mike Tyson has now after all the ganja that's been consumed over the years?
Probably one.
Doesn't he have a whole farm? Doesn't he have a ganja farm?
Yeah, he farms that stuff. He certainly does. I think he's doing well out of it as well. So I'd love to get.
See this. His lungs ain't doing that well out of it. I'll tell you that.
No, exactly. Listen, I've got a podcast called Froch on fighting. Little plug there, as you know. We're gonna get on that tomorrow. Actually,
ain't this
we've got nothing to talk about, have we, tomorrow?
I know. We just maxed out right now.
I've got the producers line. I've got the producers lined up. You can't be pulling out on Froch on fighting. That's out of order.
We'll have some fun.
We'll have a chat about that. But yeah, is there anything you want to add before we wrap? Prince Nassim Hamid was the best. I used to like Prince Nassim Hamid. Should Lennox Lewis be up for the greatest heavyweight of all time? Lennox Lewis, the greatest heavyweight of all. You could just keep going on this all night. Haymaker needs to come out of retirement. No, you don't.
No, I don't.
Who's got the best chin in the game? Carl Froch, obviously.
Do you feel over the years your chin got better or worse?
I could feel the shots a little bit more late on, and I'm not just talking about in the fights, talking about sparring. I was thinking, what was that little uncontrollable spasm in the right leg?
Was that
you know what I mean?
Presley shudder.
Yeah, but I think that's largely because you get hit with shots that you don't see coming as quick when you get older because your reflexes slow down. So It's arguable that my chin was solider when I was younger, but a lot of the shots that hit you kind of see them and you're half riding.
Yeah.
And when you get older, your reflexes slow. You have to get your gloves up a bit, and them shots really do press home.
What I definitely felt you did was because you do have a great chin, had a great chin, whatever. You did rely on it where you stopped having any real consideration for what was coming your way sometimes, and end up walking. For instance, when you fought Groves the first time around, there was no real consideration for what he was bringing.
No, exactly.
You just thought my chin's great, and I can just deal with this, and you ended up walking onto one like I've never seen that ever happen to you before. Because normally you're always worrying about getting the beak fucking snapped. And I've had the same thing where you get so confident you forget about what's coming your way because you're too worried about what you're going to do to them. And,
because of the sparring I had with Groves, and even though it wasn't one-sided, the sparring was always competitive. George Groves always gave me a good spar. But because I'd done him a couple of times in sparring, when I say done him, just like a couple of flash knockdowns and a couple of shots where I hit him and thought, why did that hurt him? I've got an 18-ounce rival glove on, which is a bit like a cushion, and he's got a head guard on. Why did his legs dip, and why did he sit on the bottom row? That told me that when I've got them little 10-ounce killers on, because them 10-ounce gloves are just naughty, aren't they? They're just like.
But it doesn't always equate like that.
Well, that made me think all I've got to do is land a shot, but you forget that he's full of adrenaline and it's fight night.
And also what you got to remember is you've hit him with that shot, so he now knows what shot you've got. So he's now preparing for that shot, and he's aware of how hard you hit. So he doesn't want to get hit by that. You're thinking, I've hit him with that. Don't worry about it. I got this guy. So sometimes it can be a beneficial. Sometimes it can be a hindrance by having success against someone in sparring if you're going to fight them, because it can give you a false confidence about how the fight will pan out. Because sparring, as you well know, is very different to fighting. As you said, 10-ounce gloves on, referee letting the action flow, the adrenaline. So many more factors to add into the pot.
Yeah, you need to be switched on, and you need to give your opponent the full amount, maximum respect before you step in them ropes. Doesn't matter who it is. If you're going in with a journeyman early on in your career, you can't think to yourself, I'm fighting William Webster here, and he's lost 100 fights and only won 3, because if he hits you with a shot with them little gloves and you don't see it coming,
it's good night,
you could get Lalanda mocked.
You get Lalanda mocked.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone says, David, don't stop, but your ass, I don't stop. All right, mate,
that's what we're here for. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up now. So I just want to say a big thank you to the fans for tuning in. Thanks for all the questions. It's been a good insight. We might do it again. We might be getting David the Haymaker Haye on. Froch on fighting tomorrow to talk about the fight again on the weekend coming up. Alexander Usyk, Derek Chisora. It's just going to be. It's just interesting. It's an interesting fight.
Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's got an opinion.
Exactly. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks, David. And we'll all catch up very soon.
Take it easy, peeps. Bye.
Don't have nightmares.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.